We're going to talk a little bit. I am from Texas, and so I'm a little bit of an outlier, but I did marry a Louisiana gal, and that's 25 years ago or so, and so I'm back in. Now this young lady here. I met her at a native plant conference that I was putting on. It was Cullowhee Lone Star Regional. Peter was a part of it, everybody. And she was at the coffee pot, and her very first words to me were, "They really need to do something about this coffee." and so I tried to go to the back and stiffen it up for the Louisiana, but it didn't happen. So anyway, I'm blessed to be here, and I appreciate the invitation. Let me see if I can find a down button here. Hogs, I'm just out of a hog issue, and I was looking at some of the animal inventories we had on a program last night, and everybody kind of forgets these hogs. But hogs in Texas, there's 4 million of them, and they're all over our place. They're all over the university, all over the town. And this is an actual picture that we have, and let's see if we can. Yeah, this is our office backyard, and this is hogs in the genetics of our blueberry enterprise. They're tearing up our muscadines. They're coming on the campus. And that is actually the regents meeting where I made a presentation. Well, it's very simple. We need to kill these hogs. And I was in that meeting, and I was caught, to be honest with you, with traps. And they were in the woods. I brushed them in. We're not allowed to shoot a gun in the city limits of Nacogdoches. We have 500 students at SFA with concealed carry law permits. And I announced when they changed that law and students are now packing heat, and I said, if you're packing heat in my class, you get an A. That's a true story. So even though the Policeman Association was against it and everybody, this is the way it is. So that's Jordan, my technician. That's the remnants of a blueberry enterprise, and that's a meeting where we talked about it, and the lawyer said, David, you're baiting that trap. You're attracting pigs to that spot. If a student climbs in that pen in the middle of the night and is killed, we will be liable. There's 12 or 13 more in the room. This was earlier. And I said, Damon, if we have a student climb in a pen of wild hogs, we don't need him here at this university. This was actually the worst thing I've ever done, because to this day, that lawyer has never forgiven me. But hogs we need to do something. For those of you who don't know where I'm at, I'm in Zone 8B. I'm just across the river. It's not that far, 3.5 hours. We have 138 acres. We have started with 1/4 of an acre, and some of my former students, Peter Luce, got a master's degree under us. He was a bachelor's degree. And those of you who know Peter Luce know that I have successfully come out of 3 or 4 years of therapy after dealing with Peter. Peter's a great guy. And what a contribution he's made to Texas horticulture and Louisiana horticulture. 24 hours a day horticulturist. This is our staff at SFA, and I say, oh, we all have to wear purple. These guys obviously missed the memo. And we have Jordan, who color combos all the time. Whenever I happen to just serendipitously take a picture, she's put on a shirt that matches the product she's going to be working with. So I thought that was cool. Elise Rodewald is in charge of children, environmental education, turned into an accountant for me, and she's about to retire, so I'm going to miss her. We have a lot of children. This is owned by Kay Jenkins. In 2000, children arrived, come into the gardens, and I was in charge, and I thought of them as garden pests, to be honest with you, and I didn't care about it. Here's a plant, goodbye. Well, I've learned very quickly that this may be one of the most important things that we do in the garden world. And the reason is, it's the disconnection that we have with children and the natural world. They'll get lost in a 1-acre forest and start to cry and call 911, even though you're surrounded by 4 highways. It's unbelievable. So Kay is brought in. We have all kinds of programs for it, and it's pretty sustainable at this point. We're excited about that. Duke's been with me since 2009, and he can't be fired because he knows where all the irrigation mains and subs are, and you never fire an irrigator. Thomas Dimmitt is in charge of the Mast Arboretum. Devin is over at the Ruby Mize Garden. Now, what does that mean? You hear these names, Mast Arboretum, Ruby Mize. So in the old days, it was just SFA Arboretum, just students and I, and we were an attractive nuisance. We were disrespected. It was really sad. But something happened in 2000. People started stepping up with something the university actually appreciated, which was money. So an endowment gets an in perpetuity name on a piece of property, and off you go. And so all of a sudden, I always had the same good ideas, but they, you know, it's just a garden. But anyway, we're off, and Devin's in charge of the Gala Mize Garden. Jonathan Carrillo, who can eat a hamburger. This is at Galveston Island. We have a wonderful project there. He's in charge of the Piney Woods Native Plant Center. A name that doesn't exist. We don't have a name in front of it. It is available, so I'll pass a hat at the end, and we'll try to raise $4 million. Let's talk about climate resilience. We used to call it global warming friendly. Oh, that's horrible. We used to call it climate change friendly. That's not any good. But the vernacular that we use in science today, in our publications and in our programs, is climate resilience. And what does that mean? It's kind of because climate is very, very aberrant right now. And it started really for me, I've been there since 78. I remember 83, 89, -4 at Nacogdoches, Texas on February the 16th, 2021, after 3 or 4 weeks of mild weather. And I had touted plants that had survived up till then, and then they went to the ground. It was really kind of stunning. All of the azaleas that were at SFA, we lost about 1/3 of them to the ground. All kinds of Asian magnolias went to the ground. But you look out over the landscape, and what do you see? The natives survived. Now, there's some changes in that. Live oaks are really Gulf South coastal, and we've shoved them all the way up into Dallas, Fort Worth, and parts north, and -8, -9 took some of them out, all seedling based in most cases. Third record heat summer, 9 degrees. That one was interesting. In December 23rd, 2022, we had 9 degrees on that date, and we hadn't even frozen. I had bananas. We were eating bananas, and it was 9 degrees. So that was really hard on plant material. Other late frosts have occurred, more floods than we've ever seen. We have amazing floods. The record flood went over everything in 2023. And then we had 2023 summer, which was 112 degrees, 42 days over 100 degrees. The plants wilted, I wilted, everybody wilted. It was terrible. And then we had a recent cold spell this year and in 2024. So climate is changing. And for those of you that are deniers, when you step out and it's -4 degrees and you can't get to the highway and everything is frozen, this is my home on that particular day, and you can see it was something else. I saw the thermometer, they predicted 5 or 6 degrees, and it was -4. Bad thermometer, went down and looked at it, it was still the same thing. It was tricky. My dog Bear caught a rabbit. I got it, I was hungry. It was a bad scene on Swift Hill. So if you look at Nacogdoches, and you can have the same graphs in your own place, we had an 83 freeze, and it was in December. Some of you remember it. We had 4 or 5 degrees as a low out in the countryside. 89 was bad, and 2021 was the one that really set us apart. I think y'all missed part of it. It was a V that went into every county in Texas froze. I give another talk. It's called Brown is a Color Too, and this is Indian hawthorn at the Houston airport. So I've watched Indian hawthorn, Rhaphilepis indica, die 3 times in our business, in our industry. 3 times, dead to the ground and below. Now I know there's a little green and we can hope and pray, but it is typical of that species. And we have fact sheets. We try to get the industry to get away from it, but sure enough, it's back. And I know why, because if a plant lives 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, the nursery industry says, well, that's not too bad, and they come back and buy some more. And that is a problem in our trade. We have a lot of exotics, viburnums, callistemon, which we have here, Miriam oleander to the ground. The list goes on and on. I like this one. It's gardenias. There's buttons. There's one called Snow Girl. And what they mean by Snow Girl is it will only survive if it's under snow. See that little line there? Martha Turnbull, one of Greg's. But in the garden, whoops, let me see if I have it here. No, I don't. This is, in the garden, we have 2 out of 31 varieties of gardenia. We had 2 that survived. And one of them was Whispering Pines from Daphne, Alabama. So there is hope to find cold-resistant exotics and natives and utilize them in the trade. It's just getting the word out and getting the nursery industry to look at it in a way. Do y'all remember this one, 2023 drought monitor? I was actually in better shape than y'all were, and I couldn't believe it down here in Baton Rouge. The ground was opening up. There's one of our, well, you probably said 138 acres on a university campus. How did you get that? Well, can't build on it. It's a floodplain. And so this is wood ducks in the trialing garden area. And basically this is a short-lived flood. They all are 12 hours, 24 hours, and it's gone. That saves us. If it's there for weeks, we would be out of luck. And so we send mulch and fire ants and snakes down to Lufkin because we don't care for them. And we're off and running. My students freak out. There's great distress in the program. The trees get weak, they fall over, and I look at that and I don't see a tree down. It's a water oak, but I do see several $1,000s of labor that we're going to have to dedicate to get it out. This is an SFA van. This is at Alto. We don't get tornadoes like they do in the western part of the state, central western, but we are going to be warmer in all 4 seasons, more violent, more extended droughts, and more extremes. And this van was at Alto, Texas. And the students got out of it and ran and got in the ditch and hid, and basically it threw it 100 yards. Oh my God. Now I said, oh my God, that's bad. We'll never get a merit raise this year at this university. That's going to eat up all our fortune. We're self-insured. Some of you have seen the stuff in central Texas that we've had with these floods, 500,000-year-old ball cypress knocked over everywhere. Pretty amazing. So if you look at the last ice age, it's poking our way, but there is, if all the ice melts and there's no North Pole, South Pole, we need to find some high ground right here in Eunice. It's pretty tough, 280 feet rise, and so I never really cared for Florida anyway. So if you look at the climate record, which is real accurate, so carbon dioxide and the relationship with temperature, and whether it's NOAA or the European Climate Agency or the Chinese climatologists, it's all the same thing. The trend line is carbon dioxide means heat, and that's just the way it is. And so we're basically at about 425 parts per million, and we're still continuing to rise, and we're still continuing to deny in many academic communities the issues that we face here, and a lot of this has to do with what we do with the vegetation. So if you jump out to 2050, I'll be nearly 100, so I think I'll still be here, but basically this is what you see, and I don't know what you think, but I think it's which one are we going to be on? What this means, RCP, means we're going to do a good job of fighting climate change. We're going to reduce our carbon footprint. And then let's say we keep going as we are going. Okay. It's a lot of technology. This is if we like we are right now, how we're handling carbon, how we're handling the emissions from our industries. And so it is a part of the problem. Zones shift north. I like bananas. You know, we're going to see that. And so we change into, we already moved down from 8A to 8B. And now we're going to go into 9, and we're going to be purely tropical in a lot of places in the USA. Rainfall, you know, we're not in good shape. There's places that are not too bad. North Carolina, Virginia, they kind of stay the same, coastal impacts. But Texas is warmer in all 4 seasons, and it's already too hot. Add in this is Ike. My house is just to the right of that center. And we have tornadoes that we've never seen before. We don't usually get them in East Texas. Don't read these books. So, you know, Hot Flat Ordeal of Change by Eric Hoffer is really a good book. And how we accept it and deny it all the way until it's too late. Throw in the heat impact on the insects and diseases that happen in our country on plant materials. We have a BMSB, brown marmorated stink bug, that's really tricky, and it's coming this way. SWD on blueberries. When we started growing blueberries, there were no insects. We had no problems with diseases. And now it's tough. Emerald ash borer, we already know that story. Asian longhorn is evidently not going to move this far south so far. And my university has had some problems. So you throw in COVID, we went from 13 to 10,000 students. Kept the same number of faculty. This is called bankruptcy. And it's a changing world. And so I said, oh gosh, we're going to be taken over by a system. I'm going to be a Texas Aggie again. No, I'm a Longhorn. And so if you know the way the world works, Texas A&M is farmers. UT is architects, lawyers, engineers, and money. And so they bought us out for $140 million. We are now SFA for 5 or 6 years, and then we'll be UT at Nacogdoches more than likely. We're not happy about it, and if anybody's taping me, I'll deny it. I'll say it's AI. And I have learned, is that how you do it? I'm trying to be a good Longhorn, but I grew up in an era where we actually hated this university. I hated them in football. We stole Bevo in 1939 and provided it at the banquet, ate it. You know, this is the Aggies. So when you look at a career, at the end of my career, I'm in a rain garden pit of epic proportions. And it's really hard. And I get a lot of teasing. Texas A&M came up with 40 million, UT 140. Texas Tech said, oh, we'll take them for $1 million. I mean, we're a big campus. And so I begged, sent my notes to all my buddies at Texas A&M. The head of the department came. I said, Dave, I don't know. We're going to owe Jimbo $83 million. Bought him out of a 10-year contract, 2 years into it. That sounds like every college now. So there is a reason kind of that you get a little bit depressed and hold up and jump from the bridge, but there's no water there. And, yeah. Eric Hoffer, when the learn, find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists. So there's solace here, and there's reason for cheerfulness, and this room is part of it because we celebrate native plants. And I have been seen with other plants, exotics as well, and I do admire and I don't like invasive natives, and I don't like invasive exotics. And I think that you should do 80–90% natives in a landscape, and then if you want to grow a banana, let's not get too excited about it. It's okay. So it's a brand new day, and we're going to talk about tips and tricks for planting in a hostile land. Well, poke around in the Native Plant Society of Louisiana is a good place to start. There's so many of them. We're going to bounce through a lot of them today. Natives is a backbone, plant in late fall, dig hole no deeper, all the rules that we have. Plant elevated if you're here because this is a swamp kind of. Wide planting hole, mulch a wide area, light fertilization if you do fertilize in the first year or two. This is a native, you're planning on it getting on its own. Group plants by water use. Don't put a wet lover next to a cactus. It's not going to work. Do some care and culture. You're a horticulturist. When you have a baby, you take a lot of care of it the first 2 or 3 years. You don't just put it out there and say, I'll see you later. Annual light fertilizer, prune the lower limbs. Let's be proactive. Test nearby native woody plants out of our range that might be better suited to the climate of tomorrow. And this is a tricky one because I was a past president of the Native Plant Society, and we have a tendency to cling to a habitat and only those plants that are around it. We think we ought to look a little south and a little west for the long term and bring in plant materials and be proactive because evolution is changing and it's changing fast. And then special genotypes, and we'll talk about nativars in a minute, and then breed and make selections. My favorite tree is ball cypress, has been for 50 years. We've done a lot of work here and in other countries. A little primer, there's 3 of them. Essentially, they are North American. They were all the way around the world in every continent but Antarctica, but it disappeared, and we are the home for the ball cypress, the pond cypress, and the Montezuma cypress, which is in South Texas, and there's integration in the middle of Texas, needless ball cypress, and we work with all of them. So if you look at the 3 of them, this is a great picture, by the way. You plant them at the same time. This is Tree Search Farms, Heidi. She has a bald, she has the Montezuma from Mexico, and then she has the pond cypress, and it always works out that way. Latitude has made a difference in the Montezuma, so it leaves out early, but it's very, very hardy. This is a really ancient genus. Taxodium dubium goes back to the time of the dinosaurs. I have a theory on what is the point of knees, the knees that you see there, because you can cut them off and the tree does okay. What's the point of that? So they say oxygen exchange, not true. Anchorage, maybe it anchors it in the hurricanes. I think it could be that 12 million years ago they were pointed, and 65 million years ago they were a spear, and the dinosaurs would. I could be wrong. This is Central Texas. There's the senator. And there's the Montezuma, and the lower right is my bride, Janet. We went down there for our honeymoon, and I really had a great time because I got to see the tree. And Janet said, you took 100 pictures of me, of the tree, but only 2 of me. And I said, I'll see you forever. I'll never see this tree again. And we've been together ever since, and she loves ball cypress. The story on the record is a reason for celebration in Louisiana. This is a senator, and I've been there 2 or 3 times, and it was near Lockwood Forest, the Big Tree Park, and it was a monster of a tree. I really love that tree. And this is the young lady that went in the woods to smoke meth and basically caught the tree on fire and took pictures of it and sent it to her friends, and she was busted and did 3 months. I don't use her name. She can't identify her, but it did burn it to the ground, and it's gone. And so sad, but Louisiana wins now at Cat Island, and there's a champion bald at Cat Island. Those of you who have been there, and you can walk there now. And this is the Montezuma. That's the big one. 78 children can put their hands around it. It's really a remarkable 3,000-plus-year-old tree. Shangri-La has the pond cypress as well. It floats into the southeast Texas. We have one of the bigger collections of ball cypress in the nation, in the world actually. And this is Cascade Falls, found in New Zealand. Got it to America, got some of it, and I thought it would be everywhere. It's a completely weeping, gravitationally challenged plant. We put it up on an arbor, a bow, and we have tunnels of it. We have it everywhere because I talked some nurserymen into buying it, and they couldn't sell it. This is my colleague, Professor Yin Yun Long in China. I worked with him on bald for 26, 27 trips, and they went to breeding. They went to putting bags up on trees and doing pollen, and they made crosses of Montezuma and bald. And see, we can't do this at SFA with students because that'd be too dangerous. But there's Janet with some of the little babies. So the young crosses will root, and you put them out at pH 8.3 in the Yangtze Delta, you can find the winners. You can find those that are really good. And there's Yin with some of his protégés at the nursery. And I mean, they plant balls. They plant more in one day than we'd ever think about, and they're clonal. They're clonal. Now, why would they go with so many clones? You can see they're cookie cutter alike. Roots and tops are exactly the same. So if you plant them on a highway, you don't have to worry about them in 10 years, one winning and one losing. They are clonal. So we have 405, 406. We have about 24 of them actually, and we named one, and we found out that the key limiting factor is Cercosporidia, which is a leaf blight that is due to western Montezuma susceptibility. Take a Montezuma from the west and put it in Eunice, and it's probably going to get this malady, and that's an example of it. But there was one, we discovered at the same time Professor Yin did, 406, and it's now a winner in the trade. Has to be rooted. It's called, we named it Lanana with their permission. It was T406. It's extremely fast, no knees, and it has needle blight. And that shows you what happens when you plant a line of them. They always look the same when they're young, but when they're 5, 10, 50, they usually segregate if it's a seedling, and as a result, you can use them on a highway at close spacing. So we have one of these in the auction. It's a good plant. And then this was a funny story. This is a dwarf, and it's called Jim's Little Guy, and Jim Barry introduced it and said, I don't like it. It's not going to sell. And anyway, it was made Florida Nursery Grow Association Plant of the Year or something just 2 years ago. We've had it 20 years. So a wonderful, small, dense ball cypress that just really is nice. There are other conifers. I'm into dwarf loblollies right now. I'd like to recognize Rob McElwee for some seed, and Caden Bieberich in Oklahoma. And so these are all never touched, never pruned, 6-year-old pines, loblollies. So you see a witch's broom in the top of a tree. I can't climb anymore, but you can shoot it out with a gun and it comes crashing down. And Rob found cones. He found cones. And little cones, little tiny seed, and we grew 1,200, and I threw away all the bigs, and I had about 100 smalls. I gave 3 to Greg, and boy, he's got a good one there on the right. And so we think there's some opportunity to bring this into the trade. Unfortunately, you have to graft them. They do graft about this time of year. There are other conifers. We love Eastern Red. It's never mentioned. It's hardly available, but boy, there's a lot of variety there, and it gives you evergreen, tough as nails, lives hundreds of years. It's out of control, really. It's a beautiful plant. Oaks, Quercus species. One of our conferences, we called it the Age of a Quercus. That's pretty good, isn't it? That's actually my stepdaughter Meredith came up with that, so I give her credit. And we had a wonderful time. But you know, you asked all landscape architects in Texas, name an evergreen oak, and they just live oak and they stop. But there's a lot of different oaks that are out there, and live oaks are coastal, but we move them up north of Dallas, and -8, -9 blasted a good number of them. The regular live oak that you see here is wide and spreading and doesn't grow old gracefully and blocks your house, but there are other choices out here. Same thing with bald seedlings, same thing with oaks. These all look the same when they were planted, but then genetics has a way of playing out. Thus you see the clonals. We do have 5 or 6 of the clonals. Cathedral is one, and these are the ones that you put on your asphalt lane that goes up to, you own 1,000 acres, and you're on the way up, and you want them all to be cookie cutter. That's the kind of tree that you use, and then you come up and there's your double wide trailer or whatever you have up there. It's you're off and running. That's what we use them for. Had a long trek to get the golden live oak, and Albert Durio in Louisiana helped me get it. And so this is canary yellow when it comes out, and basically it is a wonderful tree. We think it should be used more. And there's our first Grandview Gold, and it shows you how bright yellow it is. But I found out that if you take the seed from it, you can get some golds. And I've learned that if you take 5 or 6 generations of the yellows out of a yellow, that you can get a stable acorn-based yellow. I'll be 116 years old, but it'll be an opportunity. Lots and lots of oaks, and we're kind of a center of evolution. Mexico's a center of evolution, but we have a lot of oaks, white oaks, shumards, Newdalls, cherry. We love magnolias at SFA, and there's about 6 species to work with in the Gulf South, and this is up in Dallas, Fort Worth. I really like this use of this. There's, I think there's 130 varieties, and they're off and running. Do y'all know pollarding? So this is what we started with. It's basically boxing trees. Just turn them into a box on a stick, and a lot of people, I do this every year to some of our mags, and I get lots of hatred in the Facebook. We hate you for abusing this tree, but we're under a high voltage line, and I wanted to demonstrate that you can grow a magnolia under a high voltage line, and you just pollard it. You just cut it off at about 10 feet if you want. And then it comes roaring back, so that's in the first of the year. That's now. Now I've got 5 years to enjoy the plant in that particular form. So pollarding is an old world technique, and you know, it was coppicing, cut it at the ground, but if you got cattle in Europe, you know, you pollard, you basically put the top high, normally used with a lot of sycamores. Some of you, we don't have Magnolia Mac in East Texas, but we do have it here, and I love this plant. It's got the most biggest flowers, so if you have two-story house, park it so you can see the flowers. Sweet bays are wonderful. Related is Liriodendron tulip tree, and there's all kinds of forms of it that are available. We have a wonderful variegated form, and Chinese are breeding the heck out of this thing right now, and they're coming up with some big flowers and big program really in Liriodendron. They use chinensis as well as our own. Native maples, we have a great collection of maples, exotics and natives, and this is all natives. There's Sherwood Aiken's red. Sherwood Aiken, just down the road from Shreveport, Louisiana. He named it King's Highway because that's where he found it, and there's Sherwood. And this guy he's one of my close friends. He's passed on, but he had a contorted tupelo, and he wouldn't give it to me. And he was 89. And I kept bugging him. I said, Sherwood, you're 89. It's a tupelo. It's a contorted tupelo. Nobody asked for a tupelo. And anyway, Janet talked him down, and I got one. And so I think somebody renamed it Zydeco Twist, which is a better name, really. It's a pretty good name. It's all in a name. If it doesn't sell, change the name. River birch, there are lots of clones. Durahede is one we really like, and getting whiter and whiter, looking for white bark so we can have an aspen type grow. Anybody growing slender silhouette? I love this tree. I bought a bunch of them in, and we have a labyrinth, and it grows. There's the original tree, and Tom, who was it, Peter, up in Tennessee that found it? Don Shadow? Yeah, it was Don Shadow. And he was fishing, and he saw it, and he got off, and he got some wood. He came back for more wood, and the landowner met him with a gun. It's Tennessee. And basically ran him off. But he already had the wood, and he came back later. The tree was gone. The guy cut it down. So the original tree is gone, but we've saved it because we don't call it stealing wood. It's liberating wood from its environment. That's what it is. Great tree. Complaint, does it still have sweet gum balls? That's what that's the first thing they say. Does it still have sweet gum balls? I say, yeah, but they don't fall far from the tree. I think that's funny. Those of you that grow fringe tree, this is in Jasper, Texas, and I like this picture because plant the right plant in the right spot. So let's put a fringe tree, drought-loving son of a gun, and let's put some high water use azaleas at the bottom of it, and let's call it horticulture. But it is a beautiful tree, and it should be used more, and rarely seen in the outlets that I visit in Nacogdoches. Tie-tie, leatherwood, bee magnet, thicket forming in a wetland, a wonderful tree, good pollinator plant. And then Jim Berry, there's 3 or 4 pinks that we have in the collection, but I still give credit to Jim Berry. He found Berry's pink, and it's buckwheat, and basically it's smaller, statured, and a little less aggressive than your tie-tie. Mexican plum, trunk forming and thicket forming, depending on the source. That's kind of what we've seen. I love this plant. This is Prunus angustifolia Guthrie. We're putting one in the auctions. Charles Webb, Superior Trees, invented. It's a real nice fruit, and basically good sized fruit every year. And this tree was broken down by the kids. The people would come on the weekend, send their kids up, and they smashed the tree. And so I lost the tree, but I've got it back. And out of that tree, I had I'd find them stealing it, and they'd have a bag of it. And I said, hey, what are y'all doing? And then they'd get upset. And I'd say, no, it's not a problem. Just bring us back the pits. So they would. Some people did. And we got a bag of pits, and I handed it to my technician, Dawn. And she said, ew, gross. And I said, boss, employee, clean these. And out of it came this thing. So it's half, I know it's at least half Prunus angustifolia, and I don't know where the other half came from, but it's a pretty good plant, very, very fast growing, and I recommend this for deer hunters. And so we actually have a program on that with wild tree, and you plant these out and they will live on their own. I had deer take it down 3 times in the first year and it just leaps right back out. It's very tough. It's a Chickasaw. Buckeyes, I owe Rob McElwee, he's not here today, he's working, but Rob is kind of a little savant, and he says, I got some big buckeyes, and he really did. And so, I mean, I'm always looking for a big buckeye. There's Wangeye, have you heard of it? Aeschylus Wangeye from Vietnam? 2.5-pound buckeye. I mean, this is like, I'm in Texas, gives me the shivers. And you don't want to put a bench underneath it. You know, this thing will get you. And it's a chunk in size. And so there's our Gouda, the bottle brush buckeye. I have a different philosophy. I used to buy in all kinds of varieties, and this is a natural pink across the road. It's gone, like many dogwoods. And there's Weaver, and it's gone. And Margie had a couple. I think that's Cherokee Princess. So I don't know what the problem is. We don't really have an idea, but they don't last long. And I'm distressed about it. So my attitude is plant 20 seedlings and hope 5 of them kind of hit the ground running, and that's the way to do dogwoods. These are beautiful plants, and if you do grow them, they're bigger flowers. There's a lot of varieties out there. Everybody should grow silver bells. Nobody knows it. When the students don't know it, they say, what is this plant? Well, I said, it's a native and it's in the woods here. Yeah. Snowbell is another one that we should grow. It's a thicket former. It's on the side of roads, and it's very, very reliable. Just to prove to you that rusty black haw is not a shrub, and it's a tree, and we need to appreciate that, although there are dwarfer farms, beautiful native viburnum, dentatum, other ones as well. I was with Lynn Lowry, the world Crataegus expert. He was from England, and I was at a Pizza Hut, and we were dissecting flowers, and he was saying it's a hybrid of this, or it came from that. And we did 3 days of that, and I just kind of fade. I'm a horticulturist, not a botanist. I like to grow things. They like to talk about it. And so basically, we do have a very rare one. Why are they so rare now? A lot of these Crataegus are going to pieces because of deer and hogs are a part of it. And Crataegus texana is one of the central Texas haws that's in trouble. The native-R debate, and I get in a lot of trouble. In Facebook, I say something and everybody attacks me, but the native-R basically is a cultivated variety of a native. And we go off and buy natives at Home Depot, Walmart, and Lowe's in our favorite nurseries, and most of the herbaceous are cutting grown. Everybody needs to understand that. That is a native var. Very few of them are seed-based. You're not looking at a particular genotype. You have no idea where it came from. So it's a subset. The anti-native-R crowd is a subset of the native plant movement. And it's basically a clone versus seedling. And then there's this idea of local genotypes versus far away. We should use our area of the world. I'm not so sure that's true. I'm still wrestling with it. And Peter Rabin from Missouri Bot gave a talk in China, and I'll never forget this. He said, are we clinging to habitats, ecosystem, in a climate that no longer exists? Maybe it is our responsibility to look south and west. Maybe it's our responsibility to be adventurous, look at plant materials that are ecologically non-invasive, pollinator-friendly, service the nature that's already out there, and we get a little more proactive. Is there any difference between us? L. Ray Nixon, great botanist, used to scatter Hibiscus daisicalix seed up and down nearby streams from its original habitat. So it is a debate that continues. Selections of natives typically multiplied by asexual propagation. They are clones, they're genetically identical. They may have some attribute that we like. Flower color, more floriferous, plant size, shape, argument, and we rely on them in the industry. If you go to Home Depot, Lowe's, see a fancy pot and a fancy hang down, you're looking at about $1+ in marketing, but that sells, and that's what's going to happen. And maybe you excite somebody in horticulture and they dive down deep into it and they start looking at what it's all about. Argument is that they're identical. Maybe we get a disease and it wipes them all out. If we had seedling based, we'd be different. Something would get through. A lot of purists in the native plant movement do oppose cultivars. They think there's a theory that they may bleed. John Michael can stretch in here if he'd like. But we're afraid that the nativar that we introduce into landscapes is going to bleed into the native population and somehow have a deleterious impact. The numbers on that would be, say no, because the numbers in the wild are so great, but maybe that is a reality. Purists think more diversity in the gene pool, the better for the long-term survival of the species. There's some others who think the evidence really isn't there as an impact. So the nativar, we never had this discussion in the early days about, and actually I rode with Lady Bird, and she said in the car as we looked at Grancy graybeard in the wild, she said, David, you know, when we started the native plant wildflower movement, we never really thought and intended it for it to be anti-exotic. So I thought that was an interesting and prescient thing to say. And so maybe we should look at emphasizing natives and not being so pragmatic about it. Oklahoma redbuds, there's a lot of varieties of redbuds. Dan Hosage found this wonderful Central Texas Traveler's Weeper. We still have it. Denny Werner at North Carolina State has been breeding like crazy with our native genetics, but they're northern, North Carolina, and a lot of these have chilling requirement problems here in Texas and in Louisiana. So these two survive, Ruby Falls and Pink Pom-Poms, 52 petals on Pink Pom-Poms with a long pedicel. But look what they've done. Now we got to do something about crepe myrtles. They own the world. There's a $150 million industry here in the South, and now we have CMBS. That's a problem. Crepe myrtle bark scale, flamethrower. When I saw this, I said, Denny Werner invented it. I said, Denny, you're driving a Raptor with a sunroof next year. This thing is patented, and you don't need flowers when you have a plant like that. I mean, it's just really a total knockout. Has terrible fall. The fall, it just kind of peters out and doesn't do much in the fall, doesn't hold its foliage at all. There's Jordan again. See how she color combos? So this is a great story about horticulture, and I'm so glad to be involved in it. But this is the pink beautyberry, which was discovered in the Davy Crockett National Forest, and we've just brought this one in. I think Peter gave it to me, Lowry's Ghost. It's got a kiss of pink, not much pink. We have white and purple, of course. And this young man was working for me, Matt Welch, and he went into the forest on a hibiscus daisy calyx project, Nature's River rosemallow, endangered species, being run out by other hibiscus, really. It interspecifically hybridizes. And he found this colony, and he got the wood, and he went to Alto, and he sat down at the Alto restaurant. He's eating lunch, and the towers fell. 9/11, it was 9/11. So whenever anybody mentions 9/11, I always say, oh, that's when we discovered the pink beautyberry. And so often it goes into the trade, and basically Ralston named it a choice plant, Welch's pink, and so we're real proud that we had something to do with the first pinks. Now you can take the pink and get pinker, and we're trying to find a pink that holds up in full sun is what we're looking at from the seedlings. Sweet spire, everybody should grow sweet spire. 4 to 6 weeks of bloom, lots and lots of pollinators, and we have one called Petite Blanc that we're introducing that's 3 or 4 feet tall, came out of Louisiana State Museum. Wax myrtle, the golden wax myrtle, there's a lot of different sizes that you can use, and it's a wonderful native. Strawberry bush, what's the problem with strawberry bush in the wild and at my garden? Deer are killing us. It's deer candy. So I don't have any solutions on it, but it is a wonderful plant. We're putting in a Bob McCartney clone in the auction that has really pretty flowers on it and really pretty fall color. Has anybody ever heard of this? Spirea virginiana is the only bridals wreath we have as a native, and it's more on the East Georgia side. 20 to 30 columns. It's somewhat threatened, and we've been passing it around for bridals wreath. Sweet shrub, what a great plant. Everybody should grow it just for the fragrance. Athens is white, and then star roses and plants introduce burgundy spice. I'm putting one in the trade. It's illegal because it's patented, but it's not offered anymore because it suckers so bad. Of course it suckers. It's a sweet shrub, and every now and then it'll throw a green sport. And once a year you just cut out the green, and you'll have this really beautiful burgundy foliaged sweet shrub. We love hydrangea quercifolia, and I owe all of this to Lynn Lowry, and basically there's a lot of varieties, but we've stuck our hat on Lowry, which came from near Fulcher, Louisiana, Angola prison, I believe, and it's all about drainage and a little side shade. And so you plant seedlings, it's exciting to me, and you get some real big ones, and now you try to find the big ones that stand up in a rain and trying to get a new clone. But I wanted to show you this, and so we planted about 120 on Sarah's branch at the PNPC. This is not a Texas native, it's across the river. It's in Louisiana. And people say, well, it's not a Texas native. I don't care, it's right over there, you know, it's not a problem. But this, I started seeing seedlings. So we are regenerating seedlings along about a foot above the stream. And if you do work with hydrangea quercifolia, you know it's the size of a grain of sand. It's the tiniest seed you've ever seen. And this stream will blow up on the top, so it has to hit the right spot, get germinated, get into the ground, and deal with that first flood. And then I'm going along, we have a little old-timey bridge, goes back to the 1930s. It comes into the Native Plant Center, and I found one in a crack in the brick. And it's cracking the, see that crack that's there? There's the base of the, and it started poking its head out. And so everybody said, we gotta cut this thing out. It's tearing up our bridge. And I said, no, we're not. This is a perfect picture to show you drainage. I've killed more hydrangea quercifolias with wet feet than with just about anything. So that's something to think about, how much drainage it needs. Isn't it a shame that you can't hardly buy these things? I mean, deciduous azaleas, and we have a wonderful collection at SFA, and trying to get to about 150 varieties. There's a lot out there, but they're just not hardly available in the sizes that you like to see them. But canescens, phloemium, ostrinum, and the hybrids. Look, she can't, the fragrance is overwhelming, this young lady, and the little poodle dog doesn't care, but basically it's, look at the canescens. They're not like me, they actually get better with age. So when you get 20, 30 years old, you are a huge specimen if it's in the right spot. And so we have peppered our gardens with a lot of deciduous azaleas, and that's one of the ostrinums. Cherub's blush is a canescens, straight ostrinum, Clear Creek, Four Kings. Now Tommy named all of them after Confederate generals, Tommy Dodd, and that's not appropriate, but he did. And so Colonel Mosby, Jeb Stuart, and this was the only effort made by Flowerwood to get the Southern Living collection, to get them into the trade. It failed. You cannot buy them in Home Depot, Walmart, and Lowe's, and it's because they're sticks in a can. They're deciduous. I apologize. We want green meatballs covered up with flowers. And so I have these three, and they're nice, but you just can't buy a wide collection, and a lot of the growers are small mom and pops, and we're losing a lot of genetics. Encore wins, I agree. It's wonderful azalea, but it owns the marketplace, and it has the market avenues that make it happen. Stellar vines, good grief. This plant is over in China, it's in Europe, everybody likes it because it's an evergreen vine, and put it up in sun and it'll knock you out. I put it on my house, probably a mistake. I've taken it down. It kind of was coming in the window, and it's a problem. This is the only way to plant trumpet creeper, is to put it where it can't get away from you. And so I thought that was unique. And I think there's a yellow as well. We do have a yellow as well. Carolina yellow, and then this is Bob McCartney's pale yellow. There's 2 or 3 varieties of it. Wisteria frutescens Dam B is a Lynn Lowry clone or genotype that he found near Dam B. And there's several others. Some of them are popcorn sized, but this is really nice. And so we like it. And this is Peter's pink. So Peter Luce took seed and he found one. He said, it's just as pink as it can be. And I said, I don't know if it's that pink. It's kind of pink. Don't you agree? So it's the first pink. We need seed out of that, Peter, and just pink it up really pink, and I think you'd have a nice plant. My true love was fruit for so many years. I was in the peach business. on Highway 7 in Center, and so I've continued that. We have a muscadine patch, blueberries, and then some exotics. We're growing kiwis finally. Blueberries are an industry that went from 1,300 acres to about 300 or 400 acres. Why? Mexico can't win NAFTA. And a lot of American growers in California went to Mexico for 49, 51% cut. And it's really hard to compete with blueberries with the labor issues. This is blueberries. We're looking at a lot of genotypes. And this is the area I showed at the beginning where I'm having a lot of trouble with wild hogs breaking in, and they tear those pots up as well. Lots and lots of varieties to choose from, and lots of them are making the mass market, but the standard varieties are Climax, Tiff Blue. Depends, southern Louisiana, you can grow the southern high bushes. The natives, this is Darrow native blue, which is a really pretty plant. This is one we're putting in the trade. So the Chinese love blueberries. Why? Well, they're rich, and their kids study. They all wear glasses. Oh, they need to eat blueberries. It's good for your eyes. And so blueberries are a huge deal in China, and their breeding programs are amazing. And one of the ones that we brought back, American plant, taken to China, bred by the breeders, put it in rice paddy land. Kills 99% of them, but some of them live. That's okay, that's their intention. And out of it, they make these selections, and those selections are adapted to wet feet. And this little clone here is fragrant, and the first one that I've ever seen that actually has good fragrance. So blooms late and ripens early and has a good fragrance on the bloom. Nanjing A119, a little bit smaller than we like. We like the giants that are out there. If you don't like muscadines because they have a thick skin and they got seed, I'm sorry, I apologize. But basically we have about 70 clones now, and I can report that we have a lot of them that perform well. We use a 3-wire system, and we make about $4,000 on 90 vines in about 3 hours. And basically, we're not allowed to sell the fruit because I'm at SFA. I have a rule. I have to fill out a web portal to go to a bathroom. This place is amazing what's happened in terms of reporting. So I said, I want to sell blueberries. No, you can't sell blueberries. So we came up with an idea. We're not selling the blueberries. We're selling the experience of picking blueberries. And for $10, you can get this bucket. And I don't know if I ever got that approved, but anyway. We work with Mississippi State, we work with the University of Florida, we work with Georgia, and I can report that Gardens Alive, Steve Bloodworth's program, we have 15 seedless that we're real excited about. So you get seedless, let's get thin skins, let's get a cluster, and then we can compete with those grapes that are in the marketplace. And we have a wonderful 3-wire system, and folks come out and we have a lot of fun. Volunteers aren't allowed to touch the money. We have rules, so Jordan has to sit there and touch the money. And we can grow muscadines here, and I just think it's a wonderful crop, very, very good. Last, I want to go through a little project we're doing that relates to South Louisiana. This is our Galveston Moody Gardens project. So I've got 8A, 8B, 9A, some plot work there. And what you should appreciate, I didn't know this, but they've been tagging the tides since 1908. And so you can see the 10, what are those things? That's that big one there at the end, that's Ike. That tide went over the, so you see where you have some hurricanes where it really takes it up. But you can see we're slowly rising ocean, and the tides are slowly climbing. And this guy here is pretty lonely in his neighborhood, but that shows you what Ike did. And this is our team, and we've been working there since 2016, and we're about 4 feet above sea level. And I didn't know what I was doing because I'm from East Texas on a hill. I said, what? And the wind is incessant, and the mosquitoes are as big as your cap, and I mean, it's unbelievable. And we're off and running, and we have all kinds of projects. I was scared to death that everything would die. So we're 100 meters to the bay, and you go down 3 feet and you're ruined. It's toxic salt. And so I'm scared. I brought in off-island sand. I'm trying to build a little bit of a bed and get going, and had some volunteers from one of the clubs nearby, and I better plant a palm tree, and so we did a lot of that. But we're moving into all kinds of genetics now, and there's Malcolm in our plots, and we do ameliorate and just provide good horticulture. And then these are dug, the winners are dug by Moody Gardens and donated to the schools. You do know Galveston Island is treeless island. And the first trees were the Indians, and they used Quercus virginiana. And so there are some motts that have live oaks on them. And we jump tractors down there and look at, so work a lot with the University of Florida. We have monitored everything inside on this project. We have all kinds of cloudgrams and show you where the salt is and where it's not and how it actually works. And we've surveyed the entire island now. And basically you get down to 90 centimeters, well, really, and you're in toxic wasteland as far as salt is concerned. The conductivity just blows out, and that's really tough. Never heard of this, but aerial salinity kills trees. So it's the way the winds blow, and we have a machine, a little instrument that basically doesn't catch rainfall, but it catches dew, and so you can see what's in the dew, and then we map that as well. I'm introducing this plant. How many in this room know this plant? Am I over?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me close down. How many know this particular plant? Mercianthus. Rick does. Do you grow it, Rick? Why? Huh, aggressive in your area. Okay, well then let's just burn them. I got some here. I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here. If you have any questions, you can ask me later. Thank you.